Hey, this is Doug, out here with Jacko. About to pick up where I left off on Shakespeare's Dog by Leon Rook. Be reading pages 7 through about 15 or so. And here we go. We were making quite the woo-bug when my master Two-Foot's Kixie-Wixie, the noxious Hathaway, still stiffed and pudged from laying eggs, howled in her drone's imminence from the back door. I slowed down some, thinking she might come with her cold water pots to splash down on us, or with sticks hot as lightning bolts, not to mention epithets so randomly obscene they'd cross my eyes. But she was for the moment oblivious to dog, her voice besotted with tender wooing, crafty appeal, wifely caresses to soothe the swarthy air. Putting timid inquiry to Will's shuttered scribbler's room above, and standing drab and puckled on her flat, wide feet, as if the whole of the world was to be shouldered by her wits alone, by her hips' girth and tits' swell. "There is no penny in the goose mug, my Will," she called. "Oh, Will'm, Susanna's got the chokes. Oh, Will, my poke, your old Dawes at his ale mumblings again. Will, Will." But my Two-Foot was master of her subterfuge, and wisely kept his visage clear. Acute with reason, Warder's law, he kept his throat muscles squelched. "Oh, Mr. Shake, my Pete." My Pete, my pet, what a false snit this jailer was. I could hear his deep thought dropping down, draughts of funny hebenin, juice of hemlock, thorny relish of pyre, that a tongue wag might be scolded shut, and her curdled wife's sauces be rat-licked away. "Perish, hag," I heard him say, but growled her down through breeze that only canine could catch, for the calf had his natural fear of her. More than once she'd throttled him. "Give thee a pitchfork and ride, you ignominious witch. Will, your old mother needs buckets from the mare. Needs it now, my Will." "Scat, Hathaway." "And your honey needs her honey, sweet. One kiss. Open up, my saint." Will stayed silent. The mouse. She chunked a pebble or two at his shuddered sightway, called twice and 3 times more. Then the dolorous winch heaved a resentful sigh, like a bog letting loose of vapors too long held. She struck up a snarly curse, and finally went slug-footed back indoors. My Two-Foot's nose instantly snuck it forth. "Has the drab biscuit gone?" he whispered to me. "The viper's got a sweetness," he growled to my nodding. "Yet she's still the viper Hathaway. Let's boil the slut in oil." I barked my feeling passion for his tune, but the scribbler's nose was already back at work. The stooge, he'd been up there all day, minting rhymes, scratching dandruff from his empty head. Words, how I hated them. "It ain't words," he'd say, "but how they're shook." As if words, his or mine, would ever have their day. Yet sight of the rogue made my humors lift. I could see some merit in the ghoulish English sky, and the clouds fermenting above us like a black gang of ticks, and stood foolishly wagging my tail, whining my degree of wanted fellowship up at him. "Hooker awaits without my liege. Let's for a man and dog walk along the Avon shore, or take fast tumble through Arden wood. I'll give good ear to your mush, and sprinkle on it a syllable or two of form." My paws had given Woolsleech the faint hope of slithering free. I lifted a claw from his belly further to encourage him in this view, and spat out his limp, salivated, half-devoured ear. Let the humper think what he wished. Let the scab think I was done with him, that Hooker's gorge was filled. Hope even for a cur like him is always there. I could feel under my pads his gross heart begin to swell. Let it, I thought. When he's idling in grass, ears laid back to snooze, I'll fry him in the true Hooker fat. I'll tear the sludge from limb to limb. Then, out of need, mortifying to my self-image, I lifted leg and piddled over leaf on head of some addled, brain-jerking bug, and, dumb beast that I was, rightly and with arrogant aplomb, loped off to lick my clack dish. Oh, for supper, I thought. Oh, for a rack of bacon to confirm me on my do-gooder's path. Oh, for meated bone. Oh, for a carcass or two of whale. Well, piss. I'd as soon pray to Sirius the dog star, for my clack dish lacked even a smell. Not a tinge. Empty again. These 2 foots, including my woody Shakespeare, couldn't be bothered with feeding dog. And the dog should go on feeding them. My insides rumbled. Diet of nothing is what I had. It had been 3 weeks since I'd had a bone between my paws. And that one only uprooted that had been chawed on 1,000 times. Some knees joint, some Pope's gristle, peasant's toe left over from the Middle Ages, on the whole a friendlier period. Bleached by the mindless energy of 100 gloppy years. Chew it, Pointy, Will would say. I'll stab the witch with it as she sleeps. Dog wants more, I tell you. A field of hares, all boxed in, nowhere to run. To ride the backs of Sir Lucy's deers. And more yet, wants quitting of this corn-shucking town. Ma was stretched out on the boards across the old tanning pit. Eyes that blink around the world are such from her closed web that she wished to receive it. I gave the harlot a shriveling stare. She took it with a pouty, maddening grin. I don't like you, she glopped. You've changed. You get more like the 2 foots every day. Piddle on the cur. Wolf limped over to lay his head down on her, whining like a bow-legged toad, complaining how I'd broke his legs. To lift a hooded glance at me, saying, Ma's right, Mr. Hooker. You've gone round the bend. You've turned against dog. Next we know you'll be wearing pants. You'll be scribbling, too. He wouldn't say it out loud. But it would be what he'd go drumming into another dog's ear. Psst! Hooker thinks he's a 2-foot. Watch out for Hooker. Piddle, piddled. And as soon be lowing cow for all the change in dog I wrought. My Scop's mother, old Mary, came out and beat a rag against the steps, then flopped it over her shoulders, said, Don't I look pretty? Don't you dogs have nothing to do? And stomped back inside, weary as a load of coal. A rat came up from the bowels of the house and gnawed down to glom on whatever it was he thought he saw. A spot of blood bedizened his chin, and I wondered what it was he'd found to be chewing on. Another rat was my guess. Or maybe he'd nipped a bite of nose from one of the sleeping twins. Human meat was gruel to such filth as him. I skidded up, solid as an eel, but when I pounced, his smelly spot was bare. Old monotony, the stunted, web-flowing day, had me shackled to my toes. I let my head hang between my legs, my tongue hanging too, thinking, what's the use? Why struggle on? This day counts for nothing, as has every other. Time I told myself to wedge myself up to a tree and sleep. There was some hope for some tickle there. I let out a yowl, a long, goose-bumping, arching flight of woe, pure bravado, just to show the world I still knew how. No one noticed. No one, for all I knelled, even heard. I dropped down and dozed. Or was about to when my bloodmate, Terry, unhinged sister of mine and half-cousin to a sow, came bleeping through a break in the mud wall, her long snout smeared with bear paw from putting it where snout had no right to be, and now putting it there again with all insistence, blathering as though she had lost all hold on intellect and more, as though she were kin to a creaking quarry cart. Oh, Mr. Hooker, she cried, you've been fighting again. Is violence all you know? Then heard Wolf's sobs and Toe stepped her way over to him, laying warm drool over his flanks. What right have you? She exclaimed. You've hurt my leafest one, Wolf's leech, you hot-breath pooch. Let loose a string of livid abuse, tying up my head in the air around me with her prassy talk. When here she was in her harlotry bloom, shame as far away from a hanging belly as cart horse could run or lickety be split, and the whole wide world, from Shottery to Snitterfield, to see what she'd let that snaggletooth do to her. Swallow a tot of wool next time. I told this grassriller. Oh, Terry, what's to be done with you? What would our own ma'am and bloodspit say? For truly her wantonness made me blush. She made me wish I'd shared my birthing with a needle-eyed snake. Poor wolf, she said to the freak, and commenced licking him from head to tail. Inside the house, one of the babies began to swore, and then the other, and much caterwauling from the three women there, and next was the Hathaway at the door, kicking up her skirts and throwing up a swirl of fist at Will's shuttered aperture, crying in his shrillest, "You there, Rhymer, in your swaddling clothes, come down and change your diaper." The hex moved over the house like a savage wand. I melted down inside a pile of leaves, so weary and purposeless as a thing reduced to lead. My former cock-stomping was now all fence-post and briar, a honey's drip. I was deep in my humours, and under my 2-foot master's unmasterly hood, as nothing had been going right for us of late, there being nothing but woe and more woe heaped on through all of our long moons. I felt as some swooning, mooching bear must feel when the full weight of his cave has come down on him. Madness, I thought. What's the use? My 2-foot Will was sore in the thumbs from brooding at nasty fate, while the Geck's wife was sick with fury at his nothingness. "You take meaningful employment," she kept telling him, "if you cared about me or your brats. But nay, you're all lit up by prince and princess, king and queen. You don't care a snit about the real world." The whole house not but a stink-podge of mood, of hurts big and small. Gilbert was a prance, Joan addled, Edmund a squirt, and the goose-jar eternally empty as my clack dish eternally was. Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. My master's sire, the white-haired John, had the dropsy in his features, and never trembled now in weight of debtors prisoned or the stocks, whichever grinning justice snared him first. His arch mentor, blacker in outlook than any chimney spot, spun out his daily hours, sucking the marrow of mutton bone carried for luck in his oiled, unrattling purse, the Geneva Bible to mumble over spread open on his lap. And as he dared not venture of Sundays to Holy Trinity Church, the book's thick pages were specked with puke, spewed up by his grief and rage, or what was spilled from his dented pewter tankard that was ever deep with his in Warwickshire's best brown ale, which brew the young short-legs Edmund, his last brat, was faithful fetcher for, no and nay. He could give up his senses, John 2-foot could, and pay off owed shillings as the turtle ran, but he would never give up the sweet mercy of ale so long as there was secret barley in the rafters, and Grey didn't flaunt herself to final black. And that's enough for now. It gives you a feel. Hope you enjoyed it, and Mike, I'll keep on going. All right, man.